Hey guys, before the video starts, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Yemi. I'm a Master Tier Katarina player. I also play Akali and Diana as well. If you're looking to improve your gameplay, anywhere from Iron to Diamond, I'm doing coaching for just like €5 an hour. And you get another follow-up session free. So feel free to contact me on Discord. And with that being said, let us start the video. Before we can talk about Katarina's items, I think the best place to start is with her champion identity. Katarina is a mix between an assassin and a bruiser, but she's not really good at being either. This is mostly because her daggers have a 1 second delay before they drop, and her ultimate can also be stopped by basic abilities. She also doesn't have any defensive capabilities like most bruisers or skirmishers do. If you're starting to learn Cat or you're just relearning her, I would recommend taking Conqueror or Electrocute. If you're playing Assassin Katarina, I would recommend taking Electrocute, Eyeball Collection, Sudden Impact, and Relentless Hunter's pretty good for the extra movement speed as well because they refused to revert the nerf they did to her 5 movement speed. You can either go Alacrity or Resolve as your secondary. If you're going Alacrity, you can take Triumph, but Triumph has been nerfed. You can take Legend Tenacity, or you can go Coup de Grace. Or you can even go Last Stand if you want, but if you're playing to burst people, I would say Coup de Grace is probably better. If you're playing into a harder matchup, you can go Resolve second with Domination. You can go either Bone Plating or Second Wind, and for the other two, I would recommend taking Overgrowth because Unflinching has been nerfed. The best part about Conqueror is that you can build either AP or AD depending on the matchup or the game or whatever you want in general. It's mostly Conquer, Triumph, Legend Tenacity, Last Stand, and after that you can go either Domination or Resolve. You can go Sudden Impact, you can go Eyeball Collection, then you can either take Ingenious or Relentless Hunter, depending on what you want. You can even go Conqueror into Resolve. You can go Bone Plating, Second Wind, but I mostly go Conditioning and Overgrowth just for their tankier stats overall. So let's start with AP Katarina because that's like the easier playstyle to understand and items to build. You see it's the Short Shoes, Nash's Tooth, Rocket Belt, Zonia's, and then Shadow Flame or Void Staff into Death Cap. So let's start with the strengths of AP Cat. It has great early wave clear. It scales the best in terms of a late game damage. There is some survivability in the Zonias, but it's not like bad, but it's not great either. Let's go into the weaknesses of AP Cat. It's pretty low damage early game. It's also very team comp reliant. It's also relatively squishy compared to her other builds. It also has no sustain. It used before AP. The best part about AP Cat was that it was cheaper, but now with the increase in gold to Nashor's Tooth and Zonia's, that's like no longer the case. There's two kind of divine builds that you can go on Katarina. It's divine into AP, Nashor's Tooth, or divine into Wit's End and into just situational, depending on the game. If your team is lacking magic damage, I would say you can probably go divine into AP, but if you do have magic damage on your team, then divine into like situational, Wit's End, Randuin's, or even Blade of the Ruin King is perfectly fine. And then here are some other examples from that I've personally used in my games. You can just go, if you're facing heavy AD or heavy magic damage, you can go divine, defensive boots, Randuin's, and then you can just build whatever you want after. You can, if you're versus heavy magic damage, you can go divine into Wit's End, Merc Treads, and even Force of Nature. Now let's look at the strengths of Bruiser Cat. Bruiser Cat has a lot of build diversity compared to AP. Everything starts with Divine Sunder. Divine Sunder is like a great first item on Cat. It gives you damage, it gives you sustain. You can start Longsword, so your laning phase is also pretty good in terms of damage. Sheen is also like a great first back as an item because of the damage. And then the best part about Divine is that you can build it into literally whatever you want after, so it's perfect. You can for building every game. The only downside of building Divine is that you are lacking wave clears, but this can easily be fixed by purchasing a Dark Seal and getting some stacks. The most popular build right now is Divine into Wit's End. And after that, you can just build whatever the game demands. I've even gone Divine into full tank in some games because your comp is just a full damage comp and someone has to go in first. So yeah, Divine is the best mythic item on Cat because you can pivot in and build whatever you want. When choosing the correct build for Katarina, it's best if you consider both your team comp and the enemy team comp can practice and see what they would build in this specific game. So let's look at the first draft. As you can see, in the first draft, there's very little setup and a lot of damage on the Katarina side. And you have a lot of range, survivability, and CC on the enemy team comp. So personally, I would recommend going Divine into Bruiser, because being tankier this game is definitely better because of the lack of frontline. Although you do need wave clear versus Anivia, I would recommend taking teleport and starting Doran's shield into Anivia and building a dark seal for wave clear and then going divine. And then probably just defensive boots and then Randuin's, and then like Randuin's wit's end. If you went AP this game, it would be very hard to win. Next draft is something that is very like easy to just spam lock in AP. Just the best thing in this game because the enemy team comp is very squishy and all their crowd control is unplayable. And you do have a lot of setup in the Rakan and the Sejuani, and you're in an easy lane as well. Versus Veigar, you can take anything and you'll pretty much just still win. So AP is just definitely better with this amount of setup. So draft 3 is something that I've played in solo queue. Personally, if you see a draft like this, you should just dodge the game, but I chose to play out the game. And in this game, I actually did win. I built a Divine into just full tank items. I believe it was Divine into Mauve Mortius, and then just Randuin's and defensive boots and Force of Nature. And we managed to pull out the win because on a team comp like this with basically no crowd control and all damage, you just have to be as tanky as possible and play for skirmishes, no like full on 5v5s, and you can maybe win. I literally went deathless this game because as long as you can't die to the enemy comp, then the game is a lot easier to win in this scenario. But yeah, you should be dodging this game. Now, before we start about laning on Katarina, let's talk about the summoner spells. In most cases, you do want to take Flash Ignite because they're just good. They give you outplay potential, they give you kill pressure in lane. There are situations where you do want to take Flash TP, which is in lanes where you have no kill pressure at all. TP is pretty good just for lanes like definitely Anivia. Just any lane in general where you can't fight them, Vel'Koz, Xerath even. Just where you're just looking to like wave clear, roam, and then maybe just like TP back to your tower. When you're versing AD assassins like Zed, Talon, Kiana, I would definitely consider taking Exhaust. Personally, I take Ignite Exhaust when I'm playing versus them, and the Exhaust really does make the difference in winning the 1v1. The 3 main starting items on Katarina are Longsword, Dark Seal, and a Doran Shield. You take the Longsword for when you want the most kill pressure in lane, so in easy matchups I would definitely just be taking Longsword every time. Dark Seal is kind of a mix between survivability and damage, and D-Shield is into lanes where you just get poked and you have no kill pressure. You can also take D-Shield in lanes where you're just not comfortable in. So yeah, the item you take is definitely lane dependent and you should think about it before the game starts. So I made a matchup tier list just so you can have an idea of what the matchups look like. As you can see, it's very bottom heavy in the hard and unfavorable. Let's just talk about them briefly. So obviously we have these easy matchups. These are the matchups that basically any Katarina player can win. Veigar, Syndra, Aurelion Sol. Swain is surprisingly easy as well. And then we have Corki and Seraphine. Second row is just wave clear. These are matchups where they win if you try to brute force an interaction, but if you don't, you can just wave clear and then use your abilities to dodge your skill shots and you're fine. These matchups are matchups where you can start longsword and they're just very easy to all in. You just let them push you in, and when the lane is longer, you can look to all in them with just auto attacks. The skill matchups, these are matchups that if you're lacking knowledge they're just basically execution based. Like you can know what to do, but then you can just mess up and you lose pretty hard. So yeah, these matchups are not really based on knowledge, they're just based on execution. In the unfavorable matchups like Akshan and Tristana and Aurelia, like these lanes are killable. It's just very hard. Like they have to make a lot of mistakes in the lane, which is definitely possible, but it's not like none of them are unkillable. But it's just they have to basically fuck up really bad in order to win. And the hard side is just like matchups where like if you make a single mistake versus these champions, your laning phase is just over. Like you can even just like miss some XP or miss time something, and then they just snowball out of control. Any of these matchups are considerable. You can ban. Personally, I usually ban Cassiopeia and Pantheon just because they are the most unplayable. Let's have a look at the team comp just here. As you can see, we have Olaf versus Yone, J4 versus Wukong, Vex versus Katarina, Draven versus Ashe, and Dash versus Melio. So in this game specifically, I know a lot of newer Katarina players might see this and decide to go Bruiser, but with this amount of setup with Yone, Wukong, Ashe, this amount of setup, you should always go AP, even if you're all squishy. As long as you have setup, AP Katarina is always the best to go because you're essentially a hyper carry at that stage. You deal so much damage to the enemy comp with that much CC, so you should always go AP in this situation. So I decided to opt in for Conqueror for scaling and teleport because I don't intend to be fighting Vex in lane. I just intend to be getting as much farm as possible. You can see what Vex is doing. Many mid laners will do this versus you, so I would advise to just not use your Q on them. Just always use it for the wave, because getting the CS is the most important thing in a losing matchup. Since you don't win the interaction, it's fine if she walks up and does this. As long as you're in XP range, it's whatever. And she actually takes a tower shot. I could have probably dodged that, but it's fine. I actually advise against taking trades like that because even though she did use all her spells, because of her passive, you still lose. If this was a different champion, it might have not been that bad. It's gonna be hard to push out the wave because Vex she can't kill you. She does have Ignite. So I just played with that in mind. My movement is really bad in this game. The bush is actually warded, so my laning so far was not great. We took a lot of unnecessary damage. We could have just dodged all of her abilities with her E. But she starts pushing the wave. I decided to just recall and TP back. Arch of the wave. And then look for vision. And we reset on a cannon wave. Vex does sweep our ward sadly, which sucks. Most people don't go sweeper on mages, but she did. So I'm just pinging that Vex is missing. The lane is still pretty boring. You don't win until you have items, basically. But for the most part, if you go AP, you just want to avoid 1v1ing in general. But you do win after you have Divine in this matchup. I decided to all in here just in case she was going to roam. She wouldn't be full HP because I can't really kill her, but I can at least make her like not full HP if she's looking to roam and go anywhere. Okay, my Wukong dies to her, but that's fine. She wastes her ulti, she wastes her mana. Vex decides to just overstay. I have nothing to recall for really, so I decide to stay. But yeah, she just because she does this, we just go for like 3 minutes where she has no pressure whatsoever. So I'm just allowed to pick up as much farm as possible. My Wukong's on the dragon, we see J4, so I just keep pushing. The Vex refuses to recall because she doesn't want to miss any XP. I have another wave, she chooses to stay. Not sure what she was looking for here. It doesn't look like there's any fruit in the river, but she leaves. I set the Heart of another wave. So yeah, just 3 minutes of just no pressure from Vex. We're actually starting to close the CS gap. I had to stop her base again. This Vex is like down so much tempo, but she just refuses to recall. Sadly, I don't get the plate, but it's whatever. It's literally just been almost 4 minutes of just no pressure from Vex. So we're just like getting farm, which is what, like, if you're playing AP cat, like you want to get fed, but if you can't, this is like the next best thing. So I decided to recall because I have a lot of gold and I have teleport, so I can just instantly come back. You see J4's bot. I stay for some plates. Now I am aware that Vex is coming soon and that she could ult me off the screen, and then she fails to do so. Okay, I see my Wukong moving bot. I start pink warding the river. Somehow he doesn't see my ward and sync clear the wave. It's like the best part about AP. I ping top, but then I actually see that my Wukong is hovering bot. Okay, so this is a misplay for me. I should always go bot here. Instead of going top, you should always coordinate ganks with your jungler. I could have been there for that bot lane play, which is sad because it is a missed opportunity. Vex is posturing aggressively. So I'm concerned that her jungler is there That's why I'm just like hesitant because I have no vision. But he ends up not being there. She's just being aggressive. Okay, we see bot lane posturing aggressively again. This time I'm making the correct play to go bot lane with my jungler. We see J4, but their bot lane is just way too overextended at this stage. Okay, and we pick up our first kill. X misses another ulti, and we're able to get the tower. I actually don't have my ulti, and Wukong is not here, so I decide to just leave. But then he comes, and then my ulti comes off of cooldown. Yeah, and Olaf is here, so I decide to just leave. So the game is going pretty well so far. My farm is pretty decent. I have Nashor's Tooth, high level, so we're in a good position to carry. I actually get hooked here, and Ash refuses to let me jump out to her, so I have to blow my flash, which does suck. But the reason I'm going in there is because we hard win this fight. Yone decides to TP, and yeah, decides to recall just so I don't get ultied here by Vex. We do see her moving bot now, and our bot lane overstays. Sadly. Okay, the Rift Herald is the next objective coming up, so I want to, and I have no teleport, so I want to stay around mid-top. Some good pings out from Yone, so I decided to respect that the Olaf could be here, and he actually ghosted. I'm actually pinging that that Draven just doesn't have a completed item, he's just building components. Okay, so we're approaching the Rift Herald fight, and when approaching like Baron or Rift Herald or Dragon, like your first instinct should always be to stay in Fog of War if you can. I'm just staying over the wall. Okay, he gets it. I see Olaf walking towards me, and then I go in, but sadly the Draven E does cancel my E, but we win the fight anyway. But yeah, when approaching any sort of like objective fight, your first instinct should always be to stay hidden first, wait for the enemy team to use their crowd control, and then go in. Vex actually ints for the Ashe, and then we're actually able to pick up the Draven. So now we're really fed. This is why going AP here is just the best thing, because we have a lot of setup to work with. We press tab and we see that Olaf has no magic resist, so I can actually kill him here, but he respects it instead of running into me. We're just recalling now. And if you're ever unsure what to do mid-game, the best things to think about are, okay, what is your win condition and where's the jungler and support? You should always be playing towards your jungler and support because they are the playmakers. Draven exhaust, that's fine. Draven is top. We're able to pick up a lot from this Rift Herald. Okay, decide to take the inhib. Yeah, so I actually died to the Olaf here, unfortunately. Yeah, we definitely shouldn't have overstayed. In a different game, the enemy team can just like get Baron after both Wukong and I die, but right now they can't because we traded 2 for 2. Okay, Aurelion's just not watching his screen, sadly. Both bot laners die. We should have been able to contest this, but sadly we can't now. I'm pinging my Yone not to go, but he chooses to go anyway. And I decide to TP because he committed. This is a waste of TP. Next objective is Baron. I decide to stay mid. Sadly, our support decides to not ward the Baron, so I'm pretty sure they get it for free here. And our Ashe is bottom. I recall for Exec Alternator. So yeah, because of lack of coordination, I think they get Baron here for free. And our support is just not warding it for whatever reason. We use the tempo we have on the map to look for a pick on bot lane, I'm pretty sure. So now it's a 4v5. So I have to go on the Olaf, and he dies to his death stance. So now even though the enemy team have Baron, we do have tempo. So J4 decides to run it down. That's fine. Yeah, so we just need to back off here because the enemy team is back. That's a way to get Magi's. Okay, so we're all recalling. Check for the next objective. It's Dragon. Okay, both side lanes are pushed, so kind of just have nothing else to do other than to just go mid. Okay, Thresh is getting caught. Something on the map. We see Olaf top. Dragon is spawning soon. Has to catch the bot wave, which is important. When side laning on Cat is pretty hard because you have to there's no rules. It's kind of just pick up farm whenever you can, but you have to be there for the fights because Katarina is a team fighting champion. So if there's ever an option to look for CS or fight, you have to choose fight every time. Just give up the wave. I see Vex, I see Olaf, I just wave clear, and then I leave. Now that I'm approaching the dragon fight, I do the exact same thing. I just stay in Fog of War for as long as possible. Just waiting. When Vex flashes, then I go in. I get exhausted. So even though I waited that long, I still get exhausted. Okay, we're just cleaning up the fight. Thresh misses the hook. And we ace them. So yeah, patience is key. Even though I got exhausted there, I waited for the Vex to use her fear, which is the most important part. Kong is able to get the inhib. It's really good. Baron is the next objective. Okay, I have enough for Shadow Flame. So now I'm just really strong. Okay, Yona is bot. Wukong is on the Baron. I actually see Vex use her Fear here. So I decided to go on her, which is just a free pick essentially. Now the enemy team looks like they don't contest. So then I have teleport. If you don't have teleport here, the best thing to do is just to group with your team and go wherever they're going. But since I have teleport, I can just make sure the top wave is pushing. Just checking to see what my team is doing, to see if I need to teleport at any time. Well, I choose to not to join the fight here and just take the objective because they've already been engaged on and people are dead. So I decided taking the objective is the better call instead of trying to join the fight. But I do see Yone still alive, so I decided to come and help him. Buster aggressively for the inhib, but so I just go back to farming my next item, which is Zhonya's. Yone manages to get the inhib. Hey, Drake is the next objective. Almost have enough gold. Hey, Ash is getting engaged on. I decide to TP. Hey, we get a little too hypey because we can end. And I forget to use my stopwatch. So sadly we do die. Our team is taking the base. Okay, they end the game, I believe. Yeah, I believe they end the game here. So just to reiterate what we learned from that game, get as much CS as you can, but you should always prioritize fights over the CS. The next point is to just always play for your win condition. This is usually your bot lane because Katarina is a teamfight champion. And in the mid game, if you're ever stuck on what to do, just always think about, okay, where's your jungle and support and what's the next objective? And hopefully you got use of like just the mindset you should have about just patience and waiting out the enemy CC and thinking about what you need to wait out for in Dragon and play around that Baron fights. Sadly, we didn't get to fight the Baron because they snuck it, but that's fine. I found a good game of me laning versus Aurelion that I think shows pretty much exactly what you should do versus Aurelion. We actually end up getting a solo kill level 4. So yeah, if you ever struggle versus Aurelion, this is basically exactly what you should do. I went Conqueror, Domination with Dark Seal refillable. So the very first wave needs to be thinking about getting the first three minions and then not taking any harass, and then also tracking the enemy jungler. So we get all 3. I stay out of her Q range so that she doesn't just win the fight. So if Aurelion ever decides to crash the wave level 2, you can always do this. Just pull a little freeze right outside the tower. So now you've just denied her the long lane that she can use to all in you. And you're playing at your tower. It doesn't matter if you take a little bit of damage, it's still worth it. She actually takes a tower shot. And I also pinged that she warded the raptors, which is very important. For the enemy laner wards your raptors, you should always ping it. And see, because the lane is just so close to my tower, it's hard for her to return back any of these trades. Wait for my Q cooldown. I see she goes on this minion. And then I can just ignite her. And there she does. So yeah. It's literally that simple. And then we just push out the wave. So I'm going to talk about Katarina combos and effective trading. Let's start at level 2. So at level 2, you have a QE combo. But if you E right before you Q, your E is on a lower cooldown. As you can see, it comes up way sooner. So as you can see in this clip versus Aurelia shortly, right here, I know she's going to take the cannon, so I place my Q right before there, and I E, and it's hard for her to trade back. So let's have a look at level 3 combos. This is the all-in combo. It's E auto, Q auto, and an auto E auto. So that's what an all-in combo would look like. There's a second combo you can do at level 3 where you pick up both daggers at the same time and you just E away. And then E away. Just like that. Okay, this is the level 6 all-in combo. So just E, Q, W, R. That's all it is. And now you have the E flash, or flash E. So what you do is you press E on your target and then you flash, and it instantly goes off. And now here is all the walls that you can hop.